Hello, and thank you for joining me. Well, today I wanted to have a little more informal type of a conversation with you guys about credit repair. And first of all, I wanted to start by kind of sharing a little bit about my Thanksgiving because I had an awesome time with my family and tried to unplug as much as possible for me. Um, and I wanted to start off by kind of sharing with my devotion this morning about in all things give thanks. And it also it came from Psalms 100, where it talked about in these verses I remember because I've said them since I was a little child, is to make a joyful noise to the Lord, all ye lands. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come before his presence with singing. Know ye that the Lord is good. It is he that has made us and not ourselves. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture. Be thankful to him and bless his name. Amen. So today I wanted to talk about delete part 1, 2, and 3. Credit repair is just the beginning. So today's talk, first of all, I want to talk about credit repair. I also want to tell you what to do. I'm going to give you 3 simple steps to follow when it comes to fixing your credit yourself. And then I also want to tell you how to maintain your score once you have gotten to the number that you're wanting to. I also want to go back and kind of tell you a little story. Like I said, of course, we're all full from turkey. It's Cyber Monday. Everybody's shopping and doing all these things. But my family and I, during this holiday, we had a breakfast. And so every morning I would go and get biscuits and real bacon because we usually eat turkey bacon. So real bacon, and my daughter is one of those type of people where she really likes to spend time together, sit, watch movies, and just hang out, eat popcorn. That's my daughter. She likes to do that. So one of those mornings we woke up, or actually it may have been Thanksgiving morning, and we had made our full breakfast. We got in the kitchen together and we made the biscuits. We fried the eggs, or I'm sorry, we scrambled the eggs. We did all of those things. And when we sat down to say our grace, my daughter was like, why don't we go around and tell each other what we're thankful for? And so I started the conversation. And, ultimately, the things that are important are the people that are in front of me. And so I wanted to make sure that that was conveyed to them. And that's why I do what I do, is so that I can spend time with them and remembering that and not letting fame, fortune, and all of those things get in the way when ultimately it's to make them happy. And so setting aside other things and focusing on them. So let's get to the subject here. So with credit repair, why is this such a big topic? Why do people come to me asking me about it? Well, it's such a huge topic because it affects us in so many ways. I talk a lot about improving your net worth and financial planning and all of these things. But credit repair is not one of those glamorous things. And yes, it's a money-making business. However, it's not a topic that a lot of people, I hear it a lot. So I hear a lot of people come to me about that. And so the reason that it's so important is, number one, employers are looking at it. They pull your credit a lot of times when you're looking for jobs. I don't know why, but they do. Maybe it's to see how reliable you are. I have no clue. For loans and also for insurance. So anytime that you're making a purchase and you don't have the disposable income to be able to pay cash for that, then a lot of the times we're going to the bank or to whomever to get credit or to be able to get whatever that item is, be it a house, be it a car, whatever the case. And so what a lot of us forget or don't understand is that some mistakes that we may have made in the past has an effect on what we're doing right now. And some of the examples that I kind of researched is that, and let me see if I can find it. Oh, here it was. It talked about someone having fair credit versus someone having good credit. And the example that it gave is if you were purchasing, I looked at Lexington Law, their blog post, to kind of get some background information and some statistics to share with you. I'm sorry, I lost my place. Where is it? Oh, so a person with fair credit, if they are looking to get a student loan, then the total interest that person may pay would be around $9,000, a little over $9,000 for tuition at a university. But another student with very good credit might pay as much as almost $2,000 less than the other person for the same tuition at the same school. So the other example was if you are purchasing a car. If you have fair credit, your interest could be double digits that you're paying. And if you have very good credit, then it could be in the single digits that you're paying. And picking lenders and things of that nature, dealerships, I have a blog post, I think, that I talked about some of my dealings with car dealers. No shade, but I kind of talked about some things to avoid there. But credit in itself is affected, has a direct impact on you as an individual. All right, so some of the information that I found is that 76% of adults age 18 to 24, and I think that's millennials that we're talking about, say that they have never checked their credit score. 54% of Americans themselves have never checked their credit score. Also, a key fact that FICO states, which is one of the credit reporting scorers, is that education level, savings account balance, stock portfolio, employment status, and salary are not factored into your credit score. So please keep this in mind. It's kind of like the best kept secret, and we need to be protecting it and making sure that we are making very good choices when it comes to that. So I want to tell you some steps to take in order to do that. So let's talk a little bit about credit. There are 3 different credit reporting agencies. There's Experian, there's Equifax, and there's TransUnion. So that's the 3 agencies. I told you that I was going to tell you what to do. So step 1 in credit repair is to check your score. I just told you many Americans do not know what their credit score is. So a way to solve that is to check it. So I mentioned that there were 3 different agencies. So you can either go directly to their websites and request a free copy. There is also a website called freecredit.gov. freecreditreport.com. There, you're able to go and request all 3 credit reports as well. The reporting agencies are required to give you a free report annually. So that is one of the ways that you are able to know what your credit score is. Usually banks use FICO score as their means of lending to people. And the other score that I've heard of recently is Vantage scores. And the only reason that I know about Vantage scores, or that I've noticed them, is I use an option that's called Credit Karma. And a lot of people, well, I don't know if a lot of people do, but I just like checking my credit all the time. Maybe I'm a weirdo, I don't know. But Credit Karma uses Vantage scores. And what I have noticed is that those Vantage scores are a little bit higher, I guess, than the FICO scores. So I'm not sure what they're actually looking at, but I would assume, and you know, I'm not like a technical expert in credit repair, but I have actually had experiences where I have fixed my own credit. So yeah, I'm not an expert, but I've done it myself. And so, and also maintained it as well. So I would like to share what I've learned and help you avoid some of the mistakes that I made as a 20-year-old. You know, now I'm in my 30s, knocking on 40, but want to share with you some of the things that to help you to, if you are having an issue with credit, be able to get out of that hole and then also be able to maintain going forward. So step one, like I said, is to check your credit score. The places that you can get that is directly from the credit reporting agencies, or you can go to freecreditreport.com, and then I think there they combine them on one place. But still, you're going to go to those individual websites from freecreditreport.com and then get those reports. Another way that you're able to get a credit report is if you have applied for credit and either been declined or actually approved. You're still, if I'm not mistaken, required to get a copy of your credit report from there as well. So let's see. Some facts that I learned about FICOs is that 12% of the U.S. population has a FICO score below 550. Less than 1% of the U.S. or the 1% of the population has a perfect FICO score, which is 850, and a credit score of 810 is considered perfect. And usually, if you have an 810, you're good. Like getting the 40 extra points doesn't change. You're still going to get A1 rated credit. So it doesn't really impact you to get the perfect score because you're still considered perfect at an 810. So just keep that in mind as well. So with that being said, let's talk about step 2. Step 2 is do not close accounts that have a balance. Wait a minute. That do not have a balance. So do not close accounts that do not have a balance. Hello, thanks for joining me. So if you have any accounts that currently have a balance on them, the misconception is that you must close those. Based upon the research that I've done, if it has a 0 balance, then that may or may not affect you. However, if it has a balance on it and you close it, then possibly that lender or bank could go in and lower that limit, which would then negatively impact your credit. So, tip 2 is do not close your accounts that have a balance. And to go back to tip 1, just make sure that you've checked your credit score. And then tip 2, do not close accounts that have a balance. And then finally, step 3 is to dispute any inaccuracies that you may have on your credit. When I did it many moons ago, on my credit, I like the snail mail option. These days, you can go onto the credit reporting agencies and actually send them an they let you electronically dispute what is going on. But snail mail is better because you are able to send a certified mailing of what you've done so that then you can track when you've sent it. Someone would have to, at that office, sign and say that they received that letter. And then from there, they have a certain amount of time that they have to respond. And also, what am I trying to say? They have to respond, and they also have to validate whether that debt is really yours. And so a lot of people, or I personally had this happen where the credit card was actually mine. I had moved to a different city, and USPS, I think the Postal Service, ended up going in and requesting that my creditor change or update my mailing address. I did not give USPS authorization to tell my creditor to do that. So some of my bills, so basically at that time, my credit card payments were going to my mother's house that lived in a different town than I was. And I had just finished college. And so I was trying to get on my feet or whatever. And so a lot of those things were coming to a lot of those bills were all going to my mom's house because I was basically sleeping on people's couches. So I didn't have like a permanent address at that moment. And so all of the cards that I had gotten from college, which is a whole nother story, I was sending in the minimum payment or making the payments that I was supposed to make. So I would say maybe 60 days, the collector or the account was sent over to a collection agency. So I was like, hey, I normally was sending you the bill, but now, all of a sudden I wasn't getting the bill. And so it wasn't paid because I wasn't receiving the bill. And if you look at my history, I had paid the minimum payments prior to this point. So if you hadn't reached out to me or you weren't able to locate me and there was a miscommunication there, then I don't understand why this account has gone to collections. Well, of course, if you've ever dealt with debt collectors, and I personally have worked for one, so I already knew my rights because I worked for a debt collector while I was in college. Of course they didn't know that. So I know my rights. And so basically I was like, well, I'll pay you. It's not that I'm saying that I'm not willing to pay you, but I can't pay you the full amount because the debt collector was like, either you have to pay the full amount or, we're going to come and get you. They were threatening me and all of these things that are illegal. So I was just like, okay, well, if you won't accept what I'm willing to give you, then I'm not going to pay you. I was like, I'm willing to pay what I owe. I will catch up if there is because there were other cars that this happened to as well. So if there are things that I'm behind on and I need to pay those, then I will. However, I cannot pay you, and it may have been $2,000. I don't even know, but I was out of college. I didn't even have a job. And I was like, I cannot pay you that full amount. So what ended up happening is I never paid. And I ended up getting a letter. So I think I had gone through the dispute process where I was sending the dispute letters, snail mail, like I'm telling you. And I had gone the process of sending those letters into or to the person directly. Or what am I saying? Yeah. I had sent those letters in to the actual creditor, or I'm sorry, not the actual, I didn't send it. I sent a letter to the collection agency for them to validate my debt. In addition to that, I also sent a letter to my, to the actual creditor. When I sent the letter to the creditor, they agreed with what I said. They were like, yeah, your history shows that you didn't have an issue prior. And what you're saying is making sense. You have the information to provide to us that you would have paid, and you wrote down everything. You wrote letters to them. So everything needs to be in writing. You don't want to have these verbal conversations because then it's your word against that person's. But if you are sending that information in directly to that person and it's in writing, then, you know, it's the truth. It is actually what happened. So what ended up happening with that debt is that it ended up getting a judgment. And so at the time, my husband and I had moved to Colorado. So, what is that? Maybe a year or so later. And I remember the day we were sitting down watching TV. And we had gotten a house and everything with this collection there. Granted, we probably paid a higher rate than what we should have because, of course, we were still trying to go ahead and get a house when we may not have been ready to do it, but made a decision to go ahead and do that. So with that being said, we get into the house, or we're sitting at the house watching whatever movie, and we get a knock at the door. So a guy, he's like, hey. And my husband answers the door, and the guy's like, I'm looking for Granada Larkin Vessel. And my husband like rats me out and says, oh, she's right here. I was like, really? So I go and answer the door, and the guy lets me know that I'm being served. So I get the paperwork that says that I this debt is in collections. And at this point, instead of it being $2,000, it was like $5,000 because they've added all these fees and all of this stuff on there. So I end up getting an attorney because I'm like, oh, wow, I don't know what I'm doing. I do have the paperwork from the bank that says that I don't owe anything anymore. However, these debt collectors are still coming after me. So I get the letter, or I'm sorry, I hire an attorney, and, you know, we did our research, looked on, Googled it, or whatever was popular then. And I hired this guy to dispute this collection or dispute this judgment. Wow. And he starts billing me to actually do the work. And so I had done a whole lot of research. Whenever there's something going on, I will go look and see how I'm able to combat that and to also save cost as well. So the guy's like, I know all of the judges, and this isn't that big of a deal. I'll write up this little thing and we should be fine. I'll write up a deposition or whatever he called it, and you should be fine. Well, the letter was probably half a page. It wasn't that long. I wish I still had access to it. It was like hilarious. And I think he may have charged me, it was over $100-something an hour for him to write this letter. And like I said, it was only like a half a page. And so I was like, are you kidding me? And I was like, what did you do? And he was like, well, I had to go down to court. And so he was billing me to do this. And so I was like, you know what? Going forward, because I've basically provided you all the information, I will do this myself. Because I don't see the value. Oh, sorry. I don't see the value in paying to have this done because it's pretty simple what we're doing here. I've already gotten through the debt collector itself. Now this has gone to judgment. However, I have a letter from the creditor saying that I don't owe them anything because it wasn't actually my fault and that I had been a good paying customer prior to that time. So it goes to the judge. The judge ends up dismissing the whole case. And so that is how I avoided having a judgment added on to my credit. So the dispute letters, knowing your rights, and, just being aggressive when it comes to credit and, not taking what people say for what, being curious and not just going by what people say. Look it up yourself. Know what your rights are. So with all of that, the 3 things when it comes to credit repair is number 1, know your credit score. Number 2, do not close those accounts. They have a balance. And then number 3, disputing any inaccuracies that you have on your credit. You don't want to get in the position like I did where you ended up with a credit, but in this case, persistence worked in my favor. And so it can work in yours as well. So now that we have talked about those 3 things, how do you maintain that score once you've gotten it? Of course, like I said, a lot of us want a house. And so, I think it's 660 is the minimum. I don't know if that's still it, but back in the day when I was lending, 660 was the minimum. So here are some 3 tips that you, as a person who has gone through the credit repair process, that you can take in order to maintain and improve your score. Number 1, always, can I say always, capital ALWAYS, always pay on time. You don't have to pay any extra. You just have to do the minimum. The minimum is all that's required. And pay it on the due date. Don't pay it late. There are some variances that you have there, but I'm not going to even share them because we're going to pay on time. The way that you're able to pay on time is by automating. Granada, how do we automate? The way that you do that is either through your bank or through your credit card company. So either you can do bill pay, where you're going in and sending it every month, or having the statements come in and it tell you what's the due amount, and then you sending it in. You know yourself. You know what works best for you. But the point is here to make sure that this is automatically happening so you don't have to worry about missing a payment. So either through your bank or through the credit card company. I'm a little leery about setting up auto drafts through credit collection companies. So, settlement offers and all of that, that's more in depth and more details that I really don't want to get into those weeds today. But of course, those are options as well. So basically, you want to always pay the minimum payment at least and make sure that that payment is automatic. Second key fact or second way to maintain your credit score is to keep your credit utilization, and I don't even feel like saying that word over and over, so keep your credit use below 30%. Credit utilization is basically the difference between your credit balance versus your credit limit. So for example, if the bank gives you a credit limit of $1,000, then you're not to spend more than $300 on that card, period. If you have a smaller balance, let's say that your credit balance is $300, then the max at a time that you have used or the balance that you have at a given time is $60. So that is your limit. Don't go above that, because if you do, then that's going to negatively impact your credit. Then finally, credit repair, debt reduction, and budgeting are like sisters and brothers. They all go hand in hand, in my opinion. I don't know, call me crazy, but they are your friend. It is a way to improve your net worth by fixing your credit, by reducing how much debt, and by budgeting. By doing all of these things, you're able to improve your net worth. And I always bring up the net worth topic. Net worth means assets, so home ownership, things of that nature, cars, savings. So there, your savings, stock portfolios, all of those things do count. Whole life insurance, that is an asset. And then you have your liabilities. Liabilities are anything that you owe, credit. So if you had to get a mortgage to purchase your home, then the value of the house minus the amount that you owe on your mortgage is calculated within your net worth. So when celebrities and everyone else is talking about their net worth, or you see a Forbes article talking about that, that is what they are, that is what is being referred to. It is your things that you own minus the things that you owe. Of course, anytime that we're talking about net worth, I am reminded, and I just always go back to the biblical context of these things. We don't want to be slaves to, or so if you are a borrower, then you are a slave to your lender. And then also, we're the head, not the tail. So, we need to be coming up with ways so that then we as people can be able to be thankful and not stress over what's going to happen next. And just because you're making a six-figure income, or just because you feel that you are doing well, doesn't mean that these things don't affect you, and that credit doesn't affect you, and that having a budget doesn't affect you. It does. So the last thing, like I said, is that credit repair, debt reduction, budgeting all go hand in hand. Which brings me to my next point. How can Virtuous Financial Group LLC help you? So Virtuous Financial Group offers coaching when it comes to walking you personally through the process of credit repair, debt reduction, budgeting. That falls underneath the delete category of financial planning. So I have an umbrella or a box, and within that box, there are 5 different categories. One of those is delete. And I've talked about this. So if you've watched any of my broadcasts or webinars before, I've talked about it. Delete, retire, inherit, protect, and taxes. So those 5 areas are the keys to a financial plan, the holistic financial plan. So if you are focusing on one of those areas, and what we're talking about today is delete. Underneath delete, there are those 3 things that I just told you. Credit repair. Once your credit is repaired, then you focus on reducing the debt that you have. Sometimes these things can happen simultaneously. Sometimes your credit is so jacked up that we need to just focus on that. And then, once all that is cleared up, we've talked to the different debt collectors, we've done everything that we needed to do when it comes to that, then we move on to setting up a debt reduction plan if some of those accounts that you have are salvageable and aren't so far gone that you're unable to deal with them at that moment. And then finally, budgeting. Oh, I don't know if I can do budgeting without the other. So budgeting is number 1 before you even do all that. So to me, they all go together. So budgeting, making sure that you have a monthly budget and that it's zeroed out. Every dollar that you have has a name to it. So every dollar that you earn and you bring home in your account also has a name to it. So that then, even if you are have a shopping budget, or even if you, whatever the case may be, an eating budget, a grocery budget, the list goes on and on, from your utilities to your disposable things. And like I said, I'm using a lot of terms, and I was kind of motivated the other day because I was watching a presentation from Budgetnista. I don't know if you guys have heard of her, but awesome, really awesome program. And I can't remember exactly what she was talking about. Oh, how she paid for her house, or I'm sorry, how she bought her house with cash. She also shared how she had foreclosed on her apartment before, or I'm sorry, her condo that she owned before, but how she actually budgeted and was able to buy her home for cash. So she didn't even have to go through all of, the things that you can, or that you may have to go through when it comes to owning a home or whatever the case may be, so that then your credit is fixed. And even if you did pay cash for your home, or if you did pay cash for your car, you still have to have insurance. And if you have bad credit, then that insurance premium is going to be affected, or the amount that you pay every year, every month is affected by having bad credit. So, I get it. Some people are able to pay cash, and, there are ways that can happen. I'm not saying that it cannot. However, you still should not let your credit go unnoticed. That is an issue, and it needs to be addressed. So, like I was saying, Virtuous Financial Group helps you by coaching you personally through this process. And I'll just put it out there. The fee that I usually charge for that service is $500, and it's an annual fee. Depending upon how difficult the situation is. And it gives you annual access to be able to get any of your questions addressed. And so, in summary, I told you about credit. I told you the statistics. I told you what to do. And let's just go over that again. Number 1, check your credit score. Know what it is, of course. Number 2, Do not close your accounts. If you have a zero balance, we can talk about it. But if you have a balance on those accounts, do not close them. Number 3 is dispute any inaccuracies that are on your report, be it your address is incorrect, your name is spelled incorrectly, no matter how minute, dispute. I'm always coming up with crazy stuff. No matter how minute. Dispute. All right. And then when it comes to maintenance, always pay on time, automate. Always pay on time, automate. All right. Keep your credit use below 30%. Keep your credit use below 30%. And then finally, credit repair, credit repair, debt reduction, and budgeting go hand in hand. You usually can't have one without the other. It's like love and marriage. Love and marriage. Credit repair, debt reduction, and budgeting go together. All right, and then that, my friends, is it. And I do want to talk or share with you a scripture before I go. And I actually should have pulled this up before I started, because Virtuous Financial Group is based on Proverbs 31. And so Proverbs 31 talks about, let me see, this woman that I feel is magnificent. They call her a virtuous woman, which is what Virtuous Financial Group is named after. I guess you can say that. Let's see here. Give me just a second. See, that's what happens. Why is it not just pulling it up? I think Wikipedia will have it. All right, let me go to Bible.com. Hold on, give me just a second, guys. Sorry. It was on my heart to do this, so I wanted to share. All right, almost there. Here we go. It's actually the last proverb. So the words of King Lemuel, the utterance which his mother taught him. What, my son, and what, son of my womb, and what, son of my vows? Do not give your strength to women, nor your ways to that which destroys kings. It is not for kings, O Lemuel. It is not for kings to drink wine, nor for princes intoxicating drink, lest they drink and forget the law, and pervert the justice of all the afflicted. Give strong drink to him who is perishing, and wine to those who are bitter of heart. Wait, you know what? I'm sorry. It starts at 10. Proverbs 31, verse 10. Who can find a virtuous wife? For her worth is far above rubies. The heart of her husband safely trusts her, so he will have no lack of gain. She does him good and not evil all the days of her life. She seeks wool and flax and willingly works with her hands. She is like the merchant ships. She brings her food from afar. She also rises while it is yet night and provides food for her household and a portion for her maidservants. She considers a field and buys it. From her profits, she plants a vineyard. She girds herself with strength and strengthens her arms. She perceives that her merchandise is good, and her lamp does not go out by night. She stretches out her hands to the distaff, and her hand holds the spindle. She extends her hand to the poor. Yes, she reaches out her hands to the needy. She is not afraid of snow for her household, for all her household is clothed with scarlet. She makes tapestry for herself. Her clothing is fine linen and purple. Her husband is known in the gates. When he sits among the elders of the land, she makes linen garments and sells them, and supplies sashes for the merchants. Strength and honor are her clothing. She shall rejoice in time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and on her tongue is the law of kindness. She watches over the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. Many daughters have done well, but you excel them all. Charm is deceitful and beauty is passing, but a woman who fears the Lord, she shall be praised. Give her of the fruit of her head. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gates. And as I was taught, may God have a blessing to the reading of his word. Well, guys, I think that's it for today. I would love for you guys to join me on December the 18th for my birthday. I will be sharing some of the earnings and things of Virtuous Financial Group and things that I've done this year. And just kind of giving a report, I guess is a way to describe it. And so I'm very excited. I'm thankful. I'm blessed. And so I just want to, I would like to share that information with you guys, and I hope you will join me. Also, if you be sure to like and share the post, don't be afraid. If you are a newsletter subscriber, share it with your friends, family, whoever you feel this information is important to or that they would find value in it. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Have an awesome rest of your day, and gotta go put that tree up at some point. All right, have a good one.